Green Bay on Tuesday, the 23rd of September. We'll start with roll call. Alder Grant.
Present.
Alder Hinkfist.
Present.
Alder Johnson.
Here.
All of us are present and accounted for. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. That passes unanimously. Entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. On to regular business for consideration with possible action on the proposed ordinance for the mayor's salary for the next term beginning in 2027. Staff?
Probably status quo for them. I mean, this council had supported a motion to refer. I think they're, and I don't want to speak for you, Director, but I think you essentially said at the council your recommendation would be the same, right? You can send it back, but really no new information. I think it was, what had prompted the referral, I think, is there have been discussion among several folks that maybe the base is something that ought to be addressed. So I know Alder Prophet has some information she wanted to share, so if it's okay with you, Chair, I would maybe ask her to share what she has. And
I'm gonna come up if that's okay, because I got lots of notes and I got some
Okay.
handouts.
And Brian, again, I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but that was kind of what you mouthed to me at the council meeting, so.
Yeah, I mean, what you have in front of you and what we submitted back on June 16th is the recommendation from both the consultant and the review that we did on mayor salaries. In fact, it's a little bit higher than what the recommendation was for 2027 from our consultant by about $11,000. But yeah, that recommendation here would be the same, but obviously open to other alternatives too.
So I spent all day in Excel spreadsheets. So I took the information that the director had previously provided to all of us in June, and I put it in a spreadsheet format and then just kind of sorted it. On the first page, you'll see by population. And on the flip side, you'll see by the combined cost to the city. When you look at, of course, in other municipalities, many, you'll see probably half out of the 24 provided have a city admin as well as a mayor. There's one that doesn't have a mayor, that being Eau Claire. So really looking at the combined cost to the city of both those positions. When you look at the backside, I mean, you can see how low Green Bay is. Green Bay is in the brighter, darker blue there. And then on the first side, you can kind of see the municipalities over 100,000 are listed first. The ones in green are between 99,000 and 50,000 roughly, and then so on and so forth. And then because it was an Excel spreadsheet, I also looked at like the averages. So when we look at all 24 municipalities provided and just the mayor, or the combined cost to the city, actually the average cost amongst these 24 municipalities was $159,000. So significantly lower than what we see us reimbursing our mayor currently and future mayors. But when you look at specifically the combined cost for the municipalities between that 50 and 100K mark, that average was $221,000 for those two positions. So again, just kind of flipping to the backside, looking where Green Bay currently sits. And you can see the combined costs trending lower for municipalities that don't have a city admin on top of mayor. I'd like to see this go up. So just spend some time playing in an Excel file and think I have the stats in front of me to prove that it probably should be over 128. I think it's really important. It's a very important position. We're the third largest municipality. We've seen development in this past year here that we have not seen in a really long time, and I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. So again, just would like to see that higher. So.
Do you have a recommendation?
I do. Again, just looking at the averages, when we look at those 24 municipalities and look at how small the population is to some of those, and with that average being 159, but then we look at the larger population cities being at 221 roughly for an average, I was thinking 165. That was my recommendation.
And that's with or without benefits?
What is currently
That's
on
just
the
the
table?
salary.
Just the base salary.
Base salary.
Given that we also will be locked in for those 4 years as well. I'd rather go shoot higher now. Yeah, that was my recommendation, but the will of the committee can discuss.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alyssa.
And I wasn't at the last meeting, but why is it locked in? Why in this proposal is it locked in for 4 years without any cost of living or anything?
So there's two scenarios, and Lacey's here can explain it if I don't do it as correctly as I should or could. There's two scenarios that we could move forward with. One is identifying salaries for the 4 years of the term and then not have it in perpetuity. Or we do a beginning salary of the term and then have a calculation that brings you to the next term, and then it can be in perpetuity. So that's why there wasn't yearly increases within it, because we couldn't continue it. I believe if you want to have yearly increases within the term, you can do that. We would just have to revisit it in 2030, late 2030 for the next term. And from what I gathered, we wanted to avoid having to continually bring it up for the raises.
And this is all based on state statutes wording, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
The only question I have is if you could refresh our memory. We had a consultant come through. They recommended the salary that's in here. And in looking at, the stuff that Alyssa presented, which I appreciate, Alderperson, how does that square?
So I handed out an attachment from the June 16th Personnel Committee packet, and I handed it out today. So you should have that. On the last page is our Cottingham and Butler total rewards recommendation on salary for the mayor. We have two different scenarios here. One as a full scope and one as a limited scope. And the limited scope on the bottom was what they used in the past when they provided us comparables back in 2023. Their recommendation for the 2027 year was 114. What I did with the analysis that I gathered was place the current salary at 120 and then added in multipliers, bringing us to 2027 with that salary being 128. So we went a little bit, $14,000 higher than what our consultants recommended, based on my analysis of the comparables.
So there's maybe a couple bits of info that I would just throw out there as we noodle this. So one is and I appreciate this spreadsheet. One thing that I would point out is we sort of have it's not technically a city manager, I'll call it more of a hybrid, right? Which is Chief Fald's position, which we created that not every city has. And I think his role is sort of a quasi city manager. They're not fully, right, vested there. So I think one could argue, that Green Bay is investing more than just the mayor's salary, but I don't know that I would put Joe's scope of responsibilities fully in a city manager role. Of course, the pros and cons, with a manager, you're getting somebody who is educated and trained. A mayor is, you never know what you're going to get, right? So it is a bit of a gamble from year to year, but I think the intent is that we're trying to ensure we're attracting highly qualified candidates that have the skill set to do the job. And I do agree with Alder Proffitt. With Brown County being one of the faster growing counties in the state, it would be, like I would presume, based on that data, that the job will only get harder and more complex, not less, given that we are the flagship community within the county. I did a little bit of background on this and historical research, and you remember the last time we really took this issue up, because we missed a term. And so it was really Mayor Genrich's first term, before he was elected, before candidates were even declared. We took this issue up, and the mayor's salary at that time was $82,500, and it had been at that rate since 2010. And I think some could argue that it was politically held at that, which is what we're trying to avoid by having the automatic increases. Now, two bits of information I put out there. One is, I remember the discussion at the time talking about how underpaid the position was for the skills, the qualifications, and the expectation that we have on that individual. That was at $82,500 in 2010. I put that into a CPI calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that equivalent in today's dollars would be $122,500. So really what's being proposed is almost the same as what they were making in 2010. And again, we were talking about how woefully underfunded that was. The other bit of information that I would kind of throw out there is, when we look at the way the ordinance is structured right now, I think it's really meant to be a mechanism to ensure that the salary isn't frozen in perpetuity. So I do think it's a good mechanism for that, but obviously when we're just adding up the increases for that period of time and then applying it, it essentially creates a compounding depreciation model that eventually will depreciate the value of that salary over time because it doesn't allow the salary to compound like a normal COLA would, right? So if you're at 100%, you get a 2% raise, now you're at 102%, then you're getting your next 2% on that 102%, and you're not getting that in this model. You're adding it up over that 4-year period. So over time, right, you will continue to erode at that. I still think it's I'm fine with the ordinance because I think what it does is prohibits politically charged environments from freezing someone's salary. And it still gives this body the right to always come in and make that adjustment if it's needed. The other thing that one final bit of information that I would throw out there just to noodle on is, well, the original discussion that we had here was to tie it to the COLA so that it would be comparable to what our other staff are receiving. I do think it's important to point out that the mayor's salary is not subject to, nor do I think it's even eligible for step changes or lane changes. So as that individual, if year over year, their skills improve, they get better at what they do, or they run for re-election and of course continue to get better and better, they're not eligible for those things like other employees are. And so I just at least wanted to point that out, that their salary is not adjusted when they do get better at the job. So I do think it becomes just that much more important to make sure that we're establishing the base appropriately right now because that is baked in the ordinance and then really kind of establishes that foundation by which future calculations are made. So.
And didn't we establish in one of the meetings, say that this is basically almost 4 years behind? Like if we establish the base at 128 now, we're really establishing what it should have been 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're always looking backwards.
So you're always looking backwards. So is there a way to compromise on that? I do think, 82,128 for a city as large as Green Bay, the responsibility that the mayor holds, the amount of contracts that are negotiated. I mean, it is a complicated job. And I think we want to encourage more people to run for it. And one of the things we could do is think about, if this is what the base should have been 4 years ago, do we take, and what would those increases have been, add them to this and use that as the base?
I mean, I think in a way you're forecasting, right? And you can split the difference. But to me, it just goes back to is the base where it needs to be right now. Because what we're doing is establishing a base that's essentially, to me, it's status quo, right? To what has been the case in the past, especially since we missed a term, and the job's not getting any easier. Ask any average citizen, right? I mean, about how to structure a development agreement or what is TIF. What's the difference between a bond and a note, and I mean all the complex work that all of the mayor's direct reports obviously have to understand. But to me, the hope is that the mayor also understands these things. But that's the gamble when you have an elected form of government, is that you may not always elect a person that has that, but you're never going to attract them to run for the office if the compensation isn't in alignment with the skill set that we're demanding or requiring.
Do you have a recommendation?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Really quick. So just to clarify, I know we can't automatically put a COLA in, but can we, so you said right now, as it's recommended in front of us, it has that 3.5 automatic up until 2027. And then you said in 2030, we could discuss in perpetuity at that point?
It's set up for that now. So when we hit 2027 at 128, it's set up to have an increase in 2031 of 3.5 each year.
So it'd stall out for 4 years, and then that 3.5 would kick in?
Right, and it's the annual percentage change calculated for city employees in the previous 4 years. So it would be whatever city employees got in the 4 years averaged out times 4. So let's say it's 3%. You'll have 4 3% increases on that salary. And we can easily make it compounding as well.
Okay. Just one thought. I think it's, in all fairness, I understand, this is very complicated to compare municipalities to municipalities. The reality is, administrative structures can be different. I mean, we look and see administrative, or city admin, I mean, department head counts are all different, the way it's structured is all different. There's really no perfect way to compare this. I am a little nervous, though, to have the base be 165,000 when Milwaukee is at 169,000 and it's 561,000 people. I do think, at the end of the day, all of us as elected officials are public servants. And I understand the capacity of the position and what people are giving up to go after it, and I do want talent. Personally, I think the recommendation is a good stepping stone, especially if we are increasing it. How many, we don't know either on this spreadsheet, if these salaries have been frozen or been increased, did they just go up and now they're gonna sit for 5 or 10 years? And if we can set it up where it automatically goes up, I would be more happy with that than having this huge jump that is now gonna affect the budget. I mean, 20,000 is a good increase. We have not seen that in a while. And if our consultants actually had the amount lower and we went higher, I think that was a good compromise to get it caught up. And I do understand the history of the salary not going up for so long and that ultimately the consequences that has done. But I think 165 is a little too high, because if you even look at the fiscal impact that is in here for the proposed 128,000 plus insurance, it's 166,000 to the taxpayers. And that's with the base salary of 128. So with 165, you're probably looking at closer to 200,000 for a population of 105,000. So to me, that's a little too high. I agree with the recommendation. I think it's a good start, and I would like to see the continued 3.5 increase.
What do you mean the 3.5?
That we just talked about.
Okay, now the way that Brian
In
just talked
2030.
about, when he talked about compounding,
Yeah,
that's a big increase. That's more than 12%.
But it's over 4 years, so it's averaged out.
Well, it's averaged out, then if you compound it, you're gonna be giving 15% in one fell swoop. Especially if it's compounded, it's at least 15%. So 4 years from now, that'll kick up 15% versus just 3.5 a year.
Is it a one-time increase, or is it spread out over the 4 years?
It'll be the one-time increase for the 2031 term.
But then 3.5 after
So
that.
what it says here is,
My plan
See if
is
it's
a long
already-
term.
it's in the ordinance, starting at 128 for the 2027 term. After that term, that amount shall be adjusted by a percentage equal to the combined 4 annual percentage changes calculated for city employees in the previous 4 years, rounded to the nearest whole percentage. So it's added to the 128, a combined total of the 4 annual percentage changes rounded to the nearest
Right.
whole percentage.
Correct, a one-time, and then after that, it's 3.5 standard.
No, then it's,
No.
the next
No,
term,
it goes
so
again.
2035 will be the same process, 2039 will be the same process.
You can't build a COLA in.
Right, okay. I thought as long as we set a standard number, it could consistently go up by that standard number if it wasn't based on COLA.
You can, but then you have to revisit it the next term, the entire package. This ordinance allows it to stay in place until someone decides to change the ordinance.
And
what I
I'm
was-
still okay with, I understand the 15% increase, but it takes, the whole, I thought, point of this was to take the decision off of us in politics and have it consistent unless someone changes it.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to permanently get rid of that, right? But what the hope was is that you create a stopgap if
Correct.
there is a politically charged environment
Correct.
where maybe you have a council that wants to penalize the candidate in office.
Right.
I think it eliminates that possibility, but my hope and intent and what we talked about last meeting is that rather than an alder having to remember to bring it here, that staff would set that reminder to do that. So my hope is that you can make any necessary adjustments, right, from term to term, that might be contemplated outside of what would be the 4 years looking back. I still would go back to, again, are we at the right, making sure that we're establishing the right salary, knowing that this is going to be the rate for the next 4 years after that.
Right. So I guess then I'm okay with the plan as is, it's just I like it as recommended with the plan in front of us. I don't think adjusting it higher at this point would be a good move. So I agree with staff's recommendation.
So, I mean, if we're really just being sincere with ourselves here, I mean, this is, sometimes can be about as arbitrary of a process as anything else. And what I'm really trying to do is wrap my brain around here some of what we're seeing in some of these other cities. And particularly from that city administrator manager category, right? And just recognizing the qualifications of what it really takes to run a city. I think we're fortunate in that Mayor Genrich is very knowledgeable, very smart. He understands how this stuff works. His experience in the legislature obviously carried through, and but you're never guaranteed that. And that, of course, is a little bit of the struggle. But I do think you're guaranteed to not have smart people run if they're not properly compensated for the skills that they bring to the table. So I too would be very hesitant to go all the way to 165, but I would be comfortable with a slight increase over this 128, and I don't think it has to be as random as $547 at the end, right? So,
I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I think in the discussions that we've had in the past, we said the 128, 547 that we're talking about right now is really where our current mayor should be now. And even that, under that, we still didn't think, based on the amount of employees and the complexity of the job, that was enough. So if we look at that, and that's what he should be paying now, we look at what we would give in 4 years, that would ultimately be 12%. I'm proposing we increase this by 7%, which is basically $9,000, which would bring it up to, what, 137,547.
Number I was kind of going through my gut was 140. That's what I was saying. I didn't have to
We
feel like
go
I
to
needed
140?
hinge onto an odd number, but
I was just adding some
my
logic.
point is, I think
together.
our thought process is in the same
Yep.
place. So.
So
So
I
is
can
it
amend that to
easier-
140, or we can go with the 7% that would split, so that we would start off at least halfway there.
Say, is it easier for us to determine the 2027 number or the 2025 and let that 3.5 do its job?
What I
Like,
did in
what's
my
easier for you?
scenario was I made the 2025 number 120 and then added the 3.5 for the 2 years to get us to 2027.
But as I mentioned with that CPI calculation, based on where it was in 2010, I mean, that's status quo, and we thought that was awful. When we had this conversation, whatever it was, 7, 8 years ago, I don't know, 7 years ago.
So Brian, I did the same thing as you did.
So Alder Hinkfitz, what's your motion?
My motion is that we move to make the starting salary 130. I added 7%, so that would be.
140 is round.
We'll go 140
All right, so we have a motion for
Wait, for
salary.
2025 is 140?
for the new term. So whenever that new term starts.
Right, because we can't change it now.
You can't change it right now.
Okay.
So we have a motion for 140, do I have a
Second.
second? We have a second, any discussion? If there's no
A
discussion.
second. We already seconded it, never mind. Oh my God, I'm freaking losing it.
Deep breath. All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, that passes 3-1. That'll go obviously to the full council. I'm sure we'll have some more discussion there. All right.
And the rest of the ordinance stays intact, right? We don't,
Yep.
I mean, because technically that was an amendment, right? So you should probably motion to approve as amended then.
All right, then we're on
Do we need-
to,
Is it motion as
To motion
amended?
to approve as amended?
yes. Right, 140,000, that was approved.
I'm
Yeah.
saying technically her motion was
It's
an
an
amendment.
It's an amendment,
Because
okay.
it changes the number in the ordinance, right? So that's where I was saying I did the motion to approve as amended.
Okay. What?
Kathy, you want to second it?
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Those opposed?
I got something else in my
And
mind.
it passes 3-1. On the informational and reported routine personal actions, next meeting is October 14th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
You know, and I remember